tell the world we are Liverpool, champions of England.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of Anfield gold. We are unsupported, and we come from Liverpool.
There it is, keeping up the pace. 0-2 win versus Brighton. I love having that screen up before we start. G'day, everyone. G'day, Jimmy. G'day, Nick, the Scouts Wanderer. G'day, people who are watching. Do you like things? Says, yeah. That's how everyone feels at the end of that game. Welcome, everyone, to the Red Sea podcast, specifically the Red Sea Down Under after Liverpool have beaten Brighton 0-2. As you can see in that lovely banner there, just there, 0-2. And that's actually Salah's face when he scores the pen. It's
correct.
I mean, we'll get talking about that situation later on, but you know, he really wanted to score a goal, I think, and from the penalty spot, it looked like it was he was just as happy with that as he was with his run against Manchester United when he took his shirt off when Alisson assisted him. So, yeah, I'm sure that there are other reasons why he's just so pumped up about that, because there are rumors circulating around his situation at Liverpool. But firstly, I just want to say g'day to Nick first. How you going, Nick?
I'm doing well. And yourself, George?
Yeah, good, man. You're good. Did you get around to watching the game? Because of your hours are so crazy. Sometimes 11:30 is hard for you.
Yeah, I was gigging, so I was DJing at the time. So I'm trying to watch and trying to DJ at the same time. And I watched the first half, and then at one point I had to turn it off because it was distracting me. And then I'm getting notifications, and every time I see a goal, I'm like, please be us, please be us, please be us. And I see, and I'm like, oh, Salah scored. Oh, fantastic, 2-0. I'm like, I'm pretty sweet. But then watching the game, the replay, once I got home at like 3 a.m. whatever, the 9-minute highlight, and then the 24, because I like to see chunks of what happened. Then I like to see, I don't want to watch the whole game for 2 hours. And then I watched, I'm just like, man, we actually had a few scares in that game. Alisson had to come up a few times, and there were a few other shaky moments. So, you know, it looks 2-0 comfy, but it some would argue it was, some would argue it wasn't. And the game itself was a bit of a tricky one, but we didn't give up a 2-goal lead, which is important.
That's great. Jimmy, how are you going? Before I ask you how you are going, I just want to say g'day to Jericho, to Antio Chill. I always want to say Antio Chill. Well, unless it's Antioch.
It is.
It's Antioch.
Give us like the hyphen. How do we sound it out? Like anti-o hyphen. Like what is it phonetically?
Maybe he's anti-Ochel. He's anti-Ochel.
That's
whoever
it.
Ochel is. But Jimmy, how you going, man? Did you get your? You got some IKEA furniture, but more importantly, the Reds one.
Yeah. Look, I would love to spend 45 minutes speaking about my venture to IKEA, but I will spare that for another night. Look, fantastic to leave the Amex. I think they still call it the Amex with 3 points. Probably the worst time to go to the Amex, right? So you know, Brighton have been very good this season, actually playing some really nice football, and we've spoken about it on a few pods throughout the year as well. And they're on the back of 4 games lost in the Premier League. And that's probably the worst time to play any team, particularly a team like Brighton. And we've said it in the last few weeks that this sort of Brighton and then Arsenal in the span of only a few days before we go to Nottingham Forest, probably not a good time. So if we can get the points, if we can get the result, that's what we need. We've done it. Happy days, 1 down, 1 to go in the Premier League.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it, is that we just got the points. As we find out, it was kind of like the ending to The Sixth Sense here. It's Antio Chill. We've got the spoiler. We've got the ending we all wanted to hear about. Antio Chill.
Finally.
So there we go. We will forever know you now as the Antio Chill. But yeah, it kind of was that type of game. It's just get the points, Nick. So if you've had a chance to look at the game afterwards, I also love the idea of you watching the game whilst DJing.
That's just a skill.
That is a
Talent.
total skill.
I'm telling you, I need to take a photo of it somehow so you can see how I watch on my phone whilst I'm playing at the same time. Like I position it in a certain way on the mixer where it's facing me at a decent angle. I can see what's happening. And people are probably looking at me thinking, what the hell is this guy getting so excited about staring at the mixer? But little do they know, I'm supporting the Reds.
Well, this is how the game started when Nick was sitting there DJing. This is what was coming up on his screen when the game started, as I try and fix my sound up. It's probably the lineup we all expected. I'm not sure if we know. I mean, Thiago, as we can see, Thiago's fit there. So, maybe people wanted to, I don't know. I think I heard some shouts for Fabinho to be rested for this one. But by and large, Nick, we're kind of happy with that starting lineup these days. Joel Matip doing his thing where he's unbelievable. I think this is a Peter the coach Kafina's point. He's unbelievable for the whole game, but I always think he's just got one weird defensive moment in him. But apart from that, defense great, clean sheet. I thought Trent was world class. The midfield seemed to work, at least work enough for us to win 2-0. And then the front three being constant pests, which is all you can ask.
Well, the front three, straight off the bat, just to get into that straight away, it is what you're expecting now. Firmino's injured, not injured, so he's still on a bit of a question mark. Jota, same thing. He had his ankle injury a couple of weeks ago, whether he's fit or not. But with Diaz in the squad and Diaz being an absolute beast in this game, like Carlsberg man of the match or whatever it was, or whatever general man of the match. It was fantastic to see a player, and I think we've mentioned it a few times already in the last couple of shows, where a player has come into a foreign league, never played in England before, and he's playing like he's been there for already a season, like full-fledged training, knows the drills, knows the deal. He looks like he knows exactly what's going on, and you can see it the way he plays, the way he reads defenders' passes, like Matip's for his goal, which got KO'd and thought they were going to take it away, but they gave it to us. But then he also knows how to integrate with the midfielders. He knows how to drift out wide and then how someone else will come in and take his position as well, because he was everywhere. Like his heat map was just all over the shop on that left-hand side. He was just everywhere. The midfield as well, ideally, we'd like to see a midfield of Thiago, Fabinho, and either or a Henderson or a Keita or a Jones or an Elliott, perhaps, depending on what the occasion calls for. But Thiago's still touch and go. But Fabinho being in there. Interesting stat, though. I just saw it online. Apparently, Liverpool averaged 2.69 points per game with Naby Keita on the pinch since he has signed. So for all the flack he may get, him being on the pitch is not necessarily a bad thing most of the time. And the defense is the defense. And we've got to give praise to Matip. He's practiced that, that sneaky push through the midfield, through to the forward line, got his goal the other week against against Leeds or someone, whoever it was. And fantastic assist for Diaz's goal.
Well, let's talk about that. That's this moment just here. Luis Diaz. I'm just taking advantage and making the most of the technology whilst I've got it there as I take it away. As I put this up as well, Liverpool banished Brighton finally. It just feels like we haven't beaten them in about 40 years, which doesn't make any sense because we beat them recently. But I don't even know how recently was, because last year felt like it was like a wormhole. It just like constantly went on.
July 2020.
Oh, that's ages. That's almost 2 years, right?
Yeah. I can't remember, something like that. 3-1. Yeah.
But it's a great goal, and it's really weird. We can have a little chat about that, about the moment where Matip does that crazy ball, and you know what? He's been looking for that. We look for that ball over the top, and I have a feeling that our front three, Jimmy, I feel like that Diaz is doing all the things that they were doing 2-3 years ago. Like, I feel like he is just like looking at everyone going, aren't we supposed to run at defenders? Aren't we supposed to try and score goals? And aren't we supposed to really run really, really fast? It's just lovely to see. And it also, what I like about him doing that is that the pressure is not on Mane and Salah to keep doing that. So they can keep doing their weird evolution thing that they're doing now. They're like, we're 30 now. We're like fine wines. We can drop deep and try and score curlers and stuff. And Diaz is like, I'm just going to run dead fast and run into goalkeepers or have them run into me and score FIFA style headers where it should not go in, but it just does.
Yeah, he has an engine that doesn't stop. and he proved that fantastically against Brighton. The goal's the perfect example. Actually, it's a very high line that Brighton are playing, but a few weeks ago when he came into the side, we talked about that he was very good, but he still needs to obviously integrate with the squad and learn how to link up, especially on that left-hand side with Andy Robertson, or in some occasions as well, Kostas Tsimikas. He's managed to achieve that already. If you watch how he's dragged, I think it's Tariq Lamptey who's playing in the right back position for Brighton. He's dragged him out, and Lamptey's in two minds: do I stay with Diaz, who's just non-stop? I have to stay with him, or do I tell my centre back, get my centre back partner to watch him, and then I can watch Andy Robertson, who's potentially going to make a deep run into the back post. It's absolutely fantastic, but he makes that curved run, beats the line, and then of course he just makes the full commitment, gets the goal, and probably a slight concussion at the same time. But he's just been an absolute bright spark since he's come into this side. And you're right, he does alleviate a lot of the pressure on Manny and Salah, especially seeing as they've just come back from AFCON. There's probably still some tired legs in there because they've essentially come back, hit the ground running. It would be nice to see Salah maybe get a bit more of a rest, but we know how important he is to this side. But the pressure is off them slightly, which is great to see. And because we're getting a return from Diaz so far, whether it's assists, whether it's goals, whether it's the hard graft to win the ball back and put the pressure on high up the field, it's that kind of thing that brought us success and got us closer and closer to the success that we've achieved over the last couple of years. And we really need to see that come back into our side a little bit more up top, because it's probably been a bit lacking, because we're trying new things. We're a well-established side. We've had the same core of players now for a good 3 or 4 years, and that's a real positive thing. But of course, things change over that time as well. So it's good to have that sort of dog with a bone attitude coming into the side again, and that goes defensively as well as offensively. I think the work rate that boy has shown, if he can keep that up over the next couple of years, then he's not just going to be one of those, he was a really good signing and I'm really glad we had him as an option. He's going to be one of those key players that starts to make other players question their position in the squad. So very interesting times, very exciting to see where this one can go.
Absolutely, and we had some people having a conversation before about Naby Keita. I think I've never seen our Il Capitan, Thiago's father, come on. I think he's coming on in his alter ego there.
Looks like he's now Allison's dad.
Dropped one, picked up another.
Yeah, because Thiago's never on the field. So.
Yeah.
But that's just that conversation about Keita. I think we should have a separate conversation about Keita later on, because he does win the penalty later on. But Naby Keita looks like he's in really good form, and Jurgen Klopp is trusting him with a lot of responsibility and a lot of responsibility on the pitch. We're finally seeing maybe that replacement of Wijnaldum. And then Jericho says, with performances like that, maybe we don't beat a team like Manchester City. Interesting. I wouldn't mind coming back to that, but I also do like this one. Like the video. Smash the like button. That's the way. That's the way to push these videos up and pay us back a little bit for this lovely content we're giving you. But going back to the goal, Nick, it's so much pace, and we have another one of the best wingers in the world. I'm just going to go all out now. I don't even care how ridiculous that sounds. But we've got one of the best. Let's go back a bit. Best wingers in the league, playing for Liverpool. We've got the quickest front three. Again, back to the FIFA stuff. Like, this is just the thing of dreams. You just want fast players because you can win a lot easier when you've got the fast players. And he literally just ran fast for that goal, Nick. How good was it?
It was, and the way when he starts as well, he's obviously behind the defender because he's onside. They had a bit of a check on that, whether it was or it wasn't. Clearly onside, but the sheer fact that he's looking and then he's waiting for it, and Matip keeps advancing, and you sort of see him have a bit of a glance. I can't remember if he actually points out or like does some movement to like direct the ball, but he's running from that sort of like off left side down the central channel, and that ball it splits the defense perfectly, and it's just a perfect bounce, and just the knock header just glances it into the goal. It rolls in. He gets a knock though. Now there was a bit of a bit of contention whether he actually got collected by the goalkeeper, which a lot of people
think about that.
Yeah, a lot of people were saying that it wasn't enough, or he barely touched him. I'm just like, man, if that happens anywhere on the pitch, if that's a defender with the player, that defender's sent. He's gone. I
Every
think
time.
if he got him and he stopped him getting to the ball, that's a red card. But I think because he scored, he probably allows him to stay on the pitch because it's not the worst outcome. But that doesn't negate the fact that he still cleaned him out.
What about Sadio Mane against Manchester City when he touches? I mean, Diaz gets hit in the face. I don't know how that is not like. I don't know. I've put to one side the idea that this could be a red card, guys. Like, I'm now wondering how has Diaz come out of that with no injury? And it's again back to this thing where if you've got a camp of Liverpool fans who are saying we want there to be a red card, and then I tell you how you get the red card, you're going to think twice because I'm going to tell you how you get the red card. Diaz needs to be bleeding from the head and he needs to go off with a concussion. Not even a concussion. He needs to go off with a serious head trauma and we don't see him again for 3 months. Yeah, and that's the bullshit thing about these refs. We need to see massive amounts of injuries for them to give red cards. And that's why this goalkeeper, he's what you want, like with Jordan Pickford, that bloody idiot that did that to Van Dijk last season. Then they don't think twice anymore. They're going to go through, and that's what the idea of punishing these things is. The referee has gone, look, okay, technically his knee didn't hit him and he ended up scoring anyway, so let's just give it benefit of the doubt. That's not how the fucking game works. I'm sorry. To me, that looked like Mane's challenge on Edison. And the thing is, the goalkeeper has jumped as well. So some people I can see on anti-Liverpool supporters saying, well, Diaz is going in with his head downwards, and I understand that argument, but the goalkeeper's jumped. Any argument against Diaz putting his head down has now been completely rebutted in the other direction because the goalkeeper's jumped. It's fucking dangerous play.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It's absolutely reckless. It's serious foul play. It doesn't matter whether the ball's ended up in the back of the net. It doesn't matter. He's completely taken Diaz out. It's as simple as that. You don't need to worry about what's happened to Diaz or where he's at. There's physios, there's doctors who will look after him. Whatever needs to happen is going to happen. It's the intent and it's the action that's happened. And the worst part is they actually review it with VAR. They check it and they bring it on screen for the entire world to see that they're checking it for serious foul play. And the obvious thing to do is to get the referee, unfortunately Mike Dean, to go to the pitch side monitor, review it, and make a decision on it. But they don't even consider that. It's this mindset of, well, they've scored the goal, they've got the advantage, it's all fine, happy days. That's irrelevant. That doesn't matter. That is essentially saying to me he could have came at him with a knife, taken him out with a knife, but because the ball ended up in the back of the net, it's all right, mate. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine. You scored a goal. You're at 1-0 up. Fantastic. It's a couple of stitches. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. It's insane.
Funny thing is, though, just reading something here just now, apparently, I think an article here says 4 major media outlets reports of the Diaz incident from ESPN, Sky, BBC, and The Guardian. Out of all 4, Sky Sports went the furthest as far as calling the decision baffling, whereas on the other hand, The Guardian and ESPN focused on Klopp's reaction to it, which is basically taken out of context because obviously he's going to react angrily to a decision like that. So you can't, look how angry he got at Diaz being taken out. Yes, for a reason, because he's been cleaned out, whatever. Then calling the incident for basically what it was. And then BBC, an article post-game, didn't even mention it at all. And Gabriel Marcotti, who's a pundit on ESPN and talks about the Serie A and things like that, he's developed this coin. A term,
coined a phrase.
Thank you very much. Called protectionism in refereeing. Is there protectionism in refereeing, especially in England? It's a lot of, look at the Newcastle penalty decision against Chelsea that wasn't given. When it was a clear penalty, pulling a jersey, clacking the knees, nothing given. So what's happening with the refereeing decisions in England?
Well, there's also the Manchester City against Everton where they actually they apologized to Everton.
They apologized.
I don't think they should apologize. I think they should just continue being shithouse. Don't apologize because you're going to make people angrier because you're like, well, now you've admitted that you've made. What do we want? Some people go, admit you've made a mistake, and they admit it. It's like, why are you admitting it for? You can't make anybody happy. But look, it was. I think. When you said there, I don't agree very many times with Sky Sports, but yeah, I'll agree with them. It was baffling to say the least. Yeah. I want to go to this very quickly, not only because it's shameless self-promotion of myself, PS guys, at the end there it says PS George getting a role in American Crime Story. If you guys want to watch American Crime Story on any of you, I think it's on Hulu now. You can. I'm in that show, so enjoy it. I play the role of George Stephanopoulos. Shameless promotion here.
Hey, I watched
FX.
it. As soon as
Oh,
so,
yeah?
the Leonardo. I watched it when it first came out, like on Foxtel. See episode 1. You know the Leonardo DiCaprio meme from what do you call it? Once Upon a Time in America, where he gets up and he points at the TV. That was me.
Yeah.
Like, hey, there he is. He's right there.
Yeah.
That was me.
I know that guy.
Well, you know what's funny? In the next episode, because I was going to and from Australia and the US, I'm going to get off this topic very quickly, but like you can actually see in the next episode where I should have been, because they're like put it on Stephanopoulos' desk and then they cut to my desk and I'm not there, and like they just gave my lines to like an extra, and they're just like, oh, you should put these on this thing, because I was in Australia, and they're like, can we get George for reshoots? And nah, just forget it. Just get someone else to say his lines. So I'm like, I could have been in more. But I'm in later in the series as well. I have a chat with Clive Owen, the Liverpool supporter. He had a bit of a chat about Liverpool on set as well. So, but he was mostly quiet in his makeup. But anyway, but the main point about this is the front three not playing well as a unit. This is interesting because I saw Jurgen Klopp I was just watching the highlights before, because I did watch the game, but I just wanted to get a refresher. This idea of the front three kind of going themselves a lot, but there's also a moment where Jurgen Klopp has a go at Mo Salah for not cutting the ball back. And I actually agree with Mo Salah there, because I'm kind of like, because I think you see Salah get up going, to who? There's two things that astound me about this, Jimmy. Is the first thing is, who is he supposed to cut the ball back to? Because if you see it back, it's quite hard for him to cut back to anyone. I think going for goal was great. Second thing is, how has he heard Jurgen Klopp from there?
Yeah.
He's heard, cut the ball back. He turned around immediately.
That's the chance in the first half when he's gone past Lamptey, and the cutback. Like, there are players there, but it's like I don't have a clear outlet to pass to. So where do you actually want me to go here? Like, Diaz had players on him. Mane was further back. You know, obviously he's on his left side. He's going to go for goal.
Yeah, I agree completely. And as a striker, so you should. Simple as that, right? Strikers aren't going to score goals by constantly trying to cut back, stopping play, holding things up, trying to find players. There's moments in the game where that is the right thing to do. In that moment, when Mo Salah's already ran 40 yards and is about four yards away from goal, I expect him to shoot. The reality is there probably is work that's going on in the training and everything like that through tactics to try and, because we all know, especially, right, Salah naturally attracts 2-3 defenders. It happens every single game, every single time. So, and you see those players gravitate towards him to try and slow him down, stop him, get in his way, whatever they got to do. But Mane and Diaz and whoever else is following up just probably isn't quick enough. That's the problem. That is probably what the issue is. I don't think the issue is Salah. And Jurgen Klopp's probably, first time I might ever say this, is probably unfairly having a go at one of his players when he's probably should be having a go at a few of his other players because they're not quick enough. They're not actually keeping up with the pace of the game.
I was going to say just quickly on that, because Salah's away quickly and he's against Lamptey. Lamptey's no slouch either. He's a quick player. And I think like Jimmy just said there, maybe he's going fast, and maybe the other two are thinking like, oh, it's Salah. He's going to have a shot. He'll either score or he'll miss, but he's going to go have a shot. I don't think anyone really expects him to pass to anyone in that particular moment there as well, because you're expecting him to shoot. It's on his left foot. It's on his left side. Go across the keeper, near post, whatever it is. I would not expect him to cut back either, unless it was a 2-on-1 situation. Sure, but he had no one there. Like the next person was Diaz was behind him, and he already had a player next to him, anyways.
But you look at what Diaz does. Sorry, George. You look at what Diaz does since he's come into the side. When he makes those runs down that left-hand side, 9 times out of 10, he is looking to cut back the ball. And I'm thinking because he is fresh in this side, the information he's getting is just like, well, that's what I'm going to do. Cool. Whereas Mo Salah, Sadio Mane, maybe even Jota to an extent, have now obviously gone through this transition where it's like, this is how we play, this is how we attack, this is how we do things. And obviously things will change, or the direction or the momentum shifts as to what we should be doing to get goals. And so Luis Diaz has probably got first-hand information going, great, this is what I'm going to do. Simple, 4-yard runs, cut inside, pass. And he's already got a couple of assists or second assists through that. But maybe with Mo Salah, because we've went from this sort of, well, Mo Salah just scores goals, so Mo run and put the ball in the back of the net, whereas maybe that's not now the message.
Well, speaking of not passing in the final third, we move into the second half, and it's when Jota comes on. I think Jota does replace. What happens in the front three? Actually, we can see it
Comes
here.
on for Salah, I think, or Salah gets injured.
Jota comes on for Salah, and that's the only change we have in the front three, actually. But what happens is Diaz is going down, and then he apparently does not cut it back. And I thought Diaz was going for goal, but you actually look at the slow-mo, and Klopp again went, why don't you pass? Did the same thing. You look at the slow-mo, and he's trying to cut it back to Jota. So this is the question I do want to ask all the guys in the comments who are watching. Do you think our front three are trying to score too much? Do you think that they're doing fine? Do you think it's the machine, how it works is that the whole team works towards these front three getting an opportunity and scoring it? I mean, if we had a system where we had a less industrious midfield, perhaps you would want to see passing more often. But I think the whole team is set up for these front three, perhaps to go themselves. But what do you guys think? I'm not sure. But let that sit with you guys as we go into the second half. That was going a little bit further forward, saying that Diaz was attempting to pass to Jota. I just do want to have a little chat about this before we talk about other things surrounding this moment. But Naby Keita is the one that wins the penalty. There's a few lovely moments in the first half where he's getting the ball deep. And this was a really strange thing that I noticed, Jimmy, go back to you, early on in his Liverpool career, how horrible he was between the goalkeeper and the first third of his own pitch. I think it's against West Ham that he receives the ball and just gives it straight to a striker. And I'm like, you are incredible in the attacking third. What is going on here? And there's actually a lovely moment in the game where I think it leads to Salah getting played in and playing it to Mane, who does that left foot open up in the first half where he wins the corner. I think Keita turns about three people and slithers his way and gives the ball off to either Henderson or Trent. I don't know. What do you guys make of, and I'll start with you, Jimmy. I don't know what you make of Keita's resurgence. He wins the pen. He technically gets an assist for all you fantasy buffs out there. He's looking good.
I think over the last 12 to 18 months, he's really become a lot more of a player that has an impact on the field at Liverpool compared to probably where he was the first year or two. The challenge that we had was he would be invisible for large periods of the game. Nowadays, though, it's not that he's invisible. He just does his work quietly, and it works for us, except for when he gives the ball away outside our box and we're chasing. But apart from that, the work that he does is actually really good, and it's actually really simple. And I think that's why we don't see it as much. And I think the other problem that we have is everyone's looking for the Naby Keita that we signed. This was the Naby Keita that we saw play at Red Bull, and he was fantastic. And he did this and he did that and did. That was probably because he was the best player in the team for a large period of time, and he had to carry them a little bit in stages. But he's in a different squad, and we need him to do different things. And as midfielders, you need to be quite industrious, and you need to be quite adept to playing different positions. We've actually spoken about this with Curtis Jones playing across that midfield. And not that Naby Keita does play across the midfield. He's actually probably a lot more limited, but what he can do in certain areas of the pitch is what makes a difference. Defensively, not bad, okay. Going forward is when you can really start to move that ball, which is absolutely fantastic. And it goes back to what you were saying before as well, George, about the team sort of moving forward and bringing that ball forward for that front three to work out whatever it is they need to do. They need to make that run, shoot, score, cut back, pass, whatever. He's the one that is able to make that play happen. I thought he had a fine game against Brighton. I thought he did pretty well. I remember he used to just have these pot shots that used to go here, there, and everywhere. And then suddenly over the last 6 to 12 months, he was just hitting these random rockets that just end up in the back of the net. Yeah, exactly that. So it's actually a really good point. He does look good on the highlight reel. But that's, again, going back to the point where during the game, you don't see it. You actually need to have that specific video, the Naby Keita set to Darude Sandstorm highlight video kind of thing on YouTube.
What is that song again? Darude Sandstorm, I think.
Sandstorm.
Yeah.
Or you need to do a Ali Sissoko Fever of the Flavor compilation. You guys remember that video?
I go back to that video every few months. It is
You want
Do
some?
You think that I could get some?
Defense.
Oh, man.
Like 10 out of 10.
Does everyone know this? He like, weird point. I think he failed a medical because of his teeth. Have you guys heard about that?
Who did?
Who did?
Ali Sissoko.
No.
I think for
What?
AC Milan, I think he failed, or he played for them, or he failed one round of medicals because of his teeth, because they could tell from his teeth, they could analyze what his back would look like in like 5 to 10 years.
I was expecting some sort of like punchline dad joke. I was ready to write it down and go tell my wife. I was like, oh, here we
Because he
go.
didn't tell the tooth. Yeah.
Where's my pen?
It's like
Go on.
the third search option when you Google it. Ali Sissoko, it's the third option on the list, man. It's easy to find.
Is that true? Was I right, Teeth?
Oh, I don't know about the teeth. I'm talking about the video.
Oh, the video. Right.
Going back to the point, it's Naby Keita still had a good game. Is definitely a lot more of a player that we can utilize in these games. You know, we talk about that midfield three of Thiago, Fabinho, and whoever else, right? Naby Keita is now someone that we can confidently say can go in there, and if he can manage 60 minutes and not get injured, we feel confident that we're going to get a good performance. And you know, we say about the injury thing and jokes and stuff like that, but it is still something that lingers in the background every so often. I'm happy with Naby Keita in the side. I think he's really proving to be a lot more useful than maybe what some people give him credit for at this time.
Absolutely, and I think there's what his major contribution to the game leads to is Mo Salah getting the penalty chance to score it. And I mentioned it before. I mentioned that he looked really happy to score here because he just feels like he's been a bit under pressure since the AFCON final loss. But also at the same time, I don't know, maybe his head's getting turned with his agent there. Liverpool not meeting his demands, and then he looks at other players like, for example, Cristiano Ronaldo, 37 years old. I mean, you know, in my opinion, one of the two greatest players of all time alongside with Messi. So he deserves to be paid whatever he wants to be paid. But Mo Salah's looking at that player going, Manchester United are willing to pay a 37-year-old that amount of money. I'm the best player in the league right now. I'm the top scorer. Can't I even get like a fraction of what he's getting paid? Can I get 60% of that? So this is the question I want to ask everyone in the chat here. A little bit of a, juicy goss time. Basically this question, should we give into the contract demands? Because it's now looking a little bit like, Jurgen Klopp's now gone into the press, Nick, and he said it. He said in his press conference, that is our final offer. If he wants to take it, he can.
Well, it looks like now it's all down to the agent. From what I was reading before, I think we had it written down in our little conversation as well. The agent is what's stopping this from happening. Mo doesn't want to leave. He doesn't want to leave anywhere else. He's established. His family's here and everything like that. And effectively, they're looking for a little bit more in terms of what they're offering. Now, there is a talk of it being image rights. I think he holds 100% of his image rights, apparently, which is what's been reported. But the club want 50% of his image rights because he is a well-known figure out there. Let's be real. Like the guy's, one photo in Egypt, and he's everywhere. He's literally like the hero there. But apparently, the club are willing to go with the 400 grand a week, which some will say, as we just answered there, do like things. Apparently, it's reported £400,000 a week, which is not pocket money. But at the same time, if he says yes, but his agent says no, is it down to Salah, who's actually saying, no, I want 100% of my image rights? Because I don't know, maybe you can let me know how this works. If he's got 50% of his image rights, does that mean that if he were to go to another club, Liverpool still get 50% of the earnings every time his image is used? Or is that strictly within the contract terms while he's at the club?
I don't know. Maybe there's someone in the comments who does contract law.
that generally interests me. That really interests me. Like, how would that work?
Yeah, is that a separate contract to the actual, just the salary part?
This sounds more like a contract I have to sign for when I do like acting jobs.
That's what I suggested. I thought you might know that. Yeah.
No, I'm not allowed to say those sorts of things either. I'll get in big trouble if I mention those. But you do get those sorts of things as an actor.
Yeah.
They do say with your image, and sometimes, especially when you're starting out in the industry, they have full right to it. So I know my image has been used, and I don't think I've gotten any money out of it. So but there are some instances where I do get some payment out of it. So some actors negotiate really, really early on. No, I want full image rights. So I wonder what that would mean. His it's what TF says. Tio's father says. Liverpool will retain image rights, I guess, when he leaves. But what does that mean? We put a fro on like a t-shirt. Is that his image? Like, does he? You know, what it reminds me of as well, like WWE, when like, you know, Kurt Angle goes to like TNA and they're like, you can't use Kurt Angle. It's like, bro, that's my birth name.
Yeah, it's my actual name. But that's the thing. It's like you can't call yourself Mo Salah anymore. You can't call yourself Egyptian King. You have to rebrand to something else. Like it makes no sense.
The footballer formerly known as Mo Salah.
It's got a symbol now. He's just a crown.
Oh, wow. Here's a really good example. Jose Mourinho to United is an example. Chelsea owned the image rights until he went to United, and then they had to pay Chelsea.
Oh,
wow.
Wow.
Okay,
There you go.
There is a thing then. Okay. All right, interesting. Well, talk is that it's 400 grand a week. Mo says yes, but Liverpool want 50% of his image rights. So I don't know. The agent apparently also has held talks with City and Chelsea and United apparently. But
yeah, I think it's all fuel to the fire, isn't it? Just to try and stoke Liverpool a little bit more into the direction that they want. I mean, I'm thinking of when I get my next salary review discussing my image rights, although I don't think it's something that's ever been discussed in my industry. So probably see where that one goes. Could start some revelation, could get asked to leave the building, but we'll see what happens. The interesting thing is, what is it that Liverpool want? Not in terms of Mo Salah, right? But in terms of success in the next 5 years. Because the reality is, if Liverpool want to be at the top of the table every year, they want to be getting to the Champions League finals, they want to be winning cups, they want to be winning trophies, you're going to need a player like Mo Salah. And not just in terms of his performance, not in terms of what he brings to the field, but also in terms of the stature that he has and the audience that he brings. And yes, I'm fully accepting that football clubs are not just football clubs, they're businesses now, and it's all about making profit and expanding and growing into new markets and everything like that. That is totally fine, totally acceptable. But if Liverpool want to continue to do that, the best person to have front and centre is going to be Mo Salah. The image right things, I don't, unfortunately, my degree in contract law, I dropped out during my last class, so I won't be able to fill in any extra information on this one. But surely Liverpool, it would be in Liverpool's best interest to retain Mo Salah and to, you know, I know there's a wage structure and there's a way that they do things, but sometimes you're going to have that one player who's an absolute pearler, and you need to just say, you know what, for this one player, for what we want to achieve, we might need to just go over and above a little bit. We're already in a good place. This person's going to help us go even further. If it was 7-8 years ago and it was the Luis Suarez situation, for example, maybe at the time we would be saying these things, but in hindsight, probably a good thing that we didn't offer him a new contract, things like that. We went the way that we did, one step back, two steps forward, looking at where we are today. But we've tasted that success, and it tastes pretty fucking good, if I'm being honest. We want to make sure we can taste more of it, and Mo Salah, I think, is pivotal to that.
So if he doesn't, here we go. This is interesting. Rami Abbas is playing a dangerous game, and we have always had a top number 9, and we'll do with or without Salah. It seems like, Nick, that the club do this often, and I mean, they're getting away with it, and it's kind of this thing where, are we getting away with it, or are we skillful and planning that situation? Because you know, we have Emre Can and Gini Wijnaldum, kind of, you know, we lose them on freeze because we can't convince them to stay, and the club basically gets this reputation of we're not going to be held hostage. I mean, if there's any other player other than Salah that could have demanded big money, it would have been Virgil van Dijk. And Van Dijk is like, I want to retire here, essentially. It's crazy how much he loves this club. And I don't know, I might be looking at this from I don't know if I'm looking at it differently from others. I don't know, people in the chat, let me know if you think I'm talking broken biscuits here, but it just feels like, Nick, that players like Van Dijk just feel more Liverpool. Is that a weird thing to say? Like, Salah does feel Liverpool, but in instances like this, he just looks a little bit detached. And Van Dijk, well, I don't know what he was asking for, but they came to a conclusion. But at the same time, Mo Salah loves this club, and Mo Salah deserves to be paid heaps of money. But Liverpool aren't that type of club. We are cheapskates, essentially, and we want to keep being cheapskates, and that's been the kind of MO, the modus operandi of the club for a while now. We're not going to be bullied financially by anybody.
George, with the long stroke there of Liverpool will not be negotiating with terrorists.
Yeah, right.
Look, the first player that came to my head when you said if there's anyone else was Van Dijk before you even said the word, because I do think he's the only player who could demand anything. If, for example, Robertson said, I want to go try something else. Okay, no problems. We'll sort something out. Trent's probably another player you can argue you want to keep him on board. Sorry, Jimmy, no disrespect. I'm just thinking like other big players. Just thinking about other players here. Don't worry, mate. Gerard will sell us McGing. Don't worry. He can be another cult Charlie Adam hero. And the thing is as well now, because you think of, like, when I think of Liverpool, if someone said, who do you think of when it comes to Liverpool's attackers, I think of Salah straight away. Because he is more well-known than the others. Firmino is great, we love him. Mane is great, we love him. But if you look at the comparisons, who's the more recognizable of the bunch, it is Mo Salah, which is why I could probably understand why they want to hold on to his image rights, because he is such a well-known person. They see the smile, they see the afro that he's got there, that fist pump, that grin that he's got. That is Mo Salah, so I can understand it. But we've always said with the whole Suarez situation as well, with Torres, there's that saying, no one is bigger than the club. Granted, that is true. However, at what point do you then say to yourself, okay, you know what, we can't live by this little saying anymore. We have to do what we need to do to be successful in the long term. But then that opens up later on in the future. Well, you let him go for, you gave him X amount of dollars. So why am I any different? Why am I being denied now? Which is why we were a little bit hesitant with the whole contract adjustment as well. Van Dijk had his pay up, and Henderson had his pay up. This person had, at what point does that then say to someone, okay, well, you're not paying me as much as this person, so I'm going to go look for a better offer elsewhere, which is like what happened with Wijnaldum in a way. I think we weren't willing to match his demand or something like that. And, he's at PSG getting booed by his own fans. Like, it's ridiculous how we do this to ourselves. But this might also play into anti-FSG types out there, like, oh, look at them, they're not giving him what he wants, or they're giving him too much for what he wants. He's not worth it. We can bring in 2 other players for the same amount of money, etc., etc. And it just becomes another cycle of, how do we operate our transfers?
Pete said it really well. Pete said it really well a few months ago, because just going back to your point, Nick, about other players coming in. Well, if he can break the wage budget and get whatever he wants, blah blah blah, why not me? Well, the answer is, well, you're not Mo Salah. You haven't been able to achieve what Mo Salah has achieved. You haven't been able to break the records that Mo Salah has broken and continue to break.
I was going to say 20 goals again was his 5th season running.
Yeah, and the only time he didn't do it was when we won the league and he scored 19.
He's now also scored and assisted as many goals as Steven Gerrard did in his entire Premier League career for Liverpool.
Capitan is happy to jump in and give us an explanation, George.
Yes. Where?
Always room for one more.
Happy to jump on to explain, because it says here there are players who have clauses in their contract which automatically triggers pay rises if the top earner earns more. So if Salah is going to earn, moving from 300 to 400, let's say, then Van Dijk will go from 275 to 3 maybe, and Henderson 175 to 2 or whatever. That's interesting. That breaks the bank, surely.
Do we want to do a sub? I mean, Nick, you got your food? Is your food coming? Do we want to bring TF on?
It is 5 minutes away, but I'm happy to jump off. So we have
be like a seamless sub. It might be a seamless sub with
proper sub
with Jimmy numero uno or numero dos.
James Alisson.
We'll go Thiago's father. Mate, hop on if you want, man, to explain.
Yeah, do you want me to go up the subs board?
Yeah, let's go subs board. Yeah,
there we go. Yeah, that's it.
Well, this is what basically, keeping on Salah, if Thiago's father does join us, Il Capitan, then we're waiting here eagerly, but I'll give him a minute or two. But in the meantime, it also looked like, because I do want to talk about leading into Arsenal, because it's a good win, 2-0. We're 3 points again behind Manchester City. If I'm not mistaken, though, do they play tomorrow morning, I think, do they, against Crystal Palace? So I did want to talk about what we think might happen in that game, but at the same time, if we're 3 and or 6 points behind, depending on what happens in the Palace game, we do have Arsenal up next. And Mo Salah, at the end of the day, he did limp off. That's what this this tells me, if I go
Mm-hmm.
into this app, it tells me Mo Salah was injured. It's got a little, does it say it there? No, just got a little cross on him there. If people can see that, that means he's technically injured. I think it came from, there's a moment where he hits the bar. I think he kicks someone else's foot. And those are annoying injuries because I've done that so many times. I don't know about you guys when you play football, you kick someone else's boot and your heel, underneath your heel hurts. And you go into the physio, you're like, why? What's happening? What hurts? They're like, yeah, you've got a sore heel. And it's like, okay, so what is that? Like a grade 2? Like, is that a solus problem? Is that near the Achilles? They're like, no. Your heel hurts. That's technically what you have. You know, it's just like, well, when's it going to get better? Whenever you feel like you're better. So it's if that's where he got the injury, those are weird ones because if it's forced him off in any way, shape, or form, firstly, I'm glad he was forced off because he needs some rest. But you know, the other end of the spectrum is there is a chance that he could have some niggle that keeps him annoyed for an annoying amount of time, if I'm going to use that word again and again and again.
Yeah. Well, just quickly here, it does say that according to BT Sport, Klopp said he thinks it's not too serious regarding Salah, but he says when you see him sitting down, then something's not 100% right. He says, I think it was the situation before when he hit the ball and he got blocked. He wanted to shoot and he got blocked. I think the foot got slightly overstretched, so we have to see.
Is that what Klopp said? So it was that incident. Look at that. I had no idea. I just suspected.
So yeah, that's what it was. When you're overstretching, and he has run a lot, he has played a lot. So, that's me. I'm sitting down, my legs outstretched. So I'm saying no, like this. The physios come out. You know, need a sub. So I'll bounce myself out. Shout out to Tiago's father, James. You guys continue the great conversation. Thank you for having me once again, and I'll keep watching. So I'll see you in the
Look
chat.
at this seamless substitution. Nico is
So
out of
clean.
the picture, and we've got the captain coming on, Steven Gerrard, out of retirement. He's put the number 8 on. Naby Keita has thrown the number 8 to him, and he's put it on. We want to have some chats here a little bit about Salah. You wanted to explain a little bit about how it's the clauses and stuff.
Yeah.
Just talk, man. We want to hear you talk.
Yes, how are we doing, guys? It's good to be back. Not been on a show with you guys for a long, long time.
No, welcome back down under.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We're in the
back, mate.
future.
Yeah. So, guys, keep smashing the comments, keep smashing like buttons, and obviously supporting everything we're doing at the Red Sea Podcast. So, this Salah contract thing is starting to really grate on my last nerve. There's a couple of elements to this as to why it's kind of grating on my last nerve, because he's got 9 or so months, I believe, left on the current contract. So, FSG.
Is it not the end of next season? Would that not be 12 plus 3 or 4
9 months until when he can potentially sign a pre-contract
Yes.
for somebody else?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah.
Correct.
And let's be honest, there's no real threats in terms of financial superpowers in the Premier League that could potentially stiff him or take him away from Liverpool. We're not gonna automatically see him switch to Manchester City, you know, because they've firmly got their eyes fixed on Erling Haaland. That's the player they want. News broke in the media today that Barcelona have stepped aside and are allowing Manchester City a clear run at Erling Haaland. Chelsea are in the mud because of everything that's going on with Roman Abramovich. Manchester United seamlessly look to be going a different way with their recruitment strategy, with Ralph Rangnick going to be assuming a technical director position probably at the beginning of next season. And also news is filtering through that Pochettino could potentially be sacked as the PSG manager, which would then bring a clear pathway for him to take over at Manchester United under Rangnick. And they're going to go a very different way with their recruitment. It's going to be youth. Wow. It's going to be talent from the German Bundesliga. It's going to be talent from the foreign leagues and up-and-coming English players. That's how we expect Manchester United to possibly go. So when you look at Mo Salah, there are only a few teams in world football that could potentially challenge for his signature. PSG is one of them, and PSG would be a threat solely because obviously there's talk of Mbappe going to Real Madrid, so they would need a global superstar. I know they've got Messi, I know they've got Neymar, but they would probably want another global superstar to go in there who's potentially got longevity in their career. Cristiano Ronaldo has been mentioned, but he's in the twilight of his career. He could probably do a year's swan song in France if he wanted to. But that's where I think the main threat would would come from. Obviously, I see Newcastle mentioned in there. Newcastle. Dude, you never know. He could elect to go further north. But anyway, we won't talk too much about Newcastle. And then obviously Real Madrid are embarking on a major rebuild process, but it seems like all their eggs are firmly placed in the Mbappe basket. They are banking on Mbappe, not only because Real Madrid want Mbappe, the league needs Mbappe. So the way that La Liga is set up, they rely on global superstars being in their league to obviously sell the league, the image rights to the league, so on and so forth, X, Y, Z. And they've been in the mud since Ronaldo obviously went over to Juve, and then Messi with a tearful exit from Barcelona. So there's probably two major pawns in this, Real on the peripheral, but PSG would probably have the box seat if anyone was to try and pry, Mo Salah away from Liverpool Football Club. And then, like you're saying, this is why I think the agent is playing a very, very dangerous game, because we're in a post-pandemic season in terms of transfers. Yes, clubs are still spending, but what is it going to cost in terms of a sign-on fee and wages to bring a player of the caliber of Mo Salah into a team? And also, where else would you rather be playing your football than at Liverpool Football Club? The phrase "it gets no bigger than Liverpool Football Club" is ever more true than it ever has been. We are probably the biggest, if not one of the biggest teams in the Premier League in terms of advertisement, in terms of the whole aura around Liverpool Football Club. And then you extend that to Europe. We are a powerhouse in Europe year on year, even when we had the worst squads. Yeah, we're through to the latter stage of the Champions League. We're competing in Europe. We just do it for fun. This is what we do. And foreign players will always say, yeah, I want to win the league, but they'll go, the Champions League's the baby. That's the one. He's done two finals and one win. Yeah, we're through to the quarters in this year's Champions League. It doesn't look like there's anybody we're going to come up against that we can't dispatch from this competition. We're talking about the quadruple. Mo Salah could potentially cement his legacy as being one of the greatest, if not the greatest Liverpool player ever, and create history. Why would you want to leave that behind? Now, we talk about the contract offer as to where Liverpool currently stand. Some kind of tentative news was coming out of various different media outlets that there could be some clauses in other players' contracts. There were no names mentioned, that if Mo Salah's wages, if he was to become the top earner, his wages were to go up, then there'd be a clause in, for argument's sake, Jordan Henderson's contract to say, well, you bump my wages by 20%, for example, and then Virgil van Dijk could have a similar clause. Naby Keita could have Thiago could have a similar clause. All these players could have clauses in their contracts if they're agents, and these things existed in football before. There's something that has become a rarity in football, but we know the way that Liverpool Football Club work in terms of performance-related contracts, clauses in contracts. Their contracts are heavily geared up with clauses that all add up to that £400,000 a week. It might only be a base salary of £200,000 a week, but you've got this, and this, which means you get your 400. You got to score me 10 goals, you get this. You got to score me 20 goals, you get this. Do you know what I mean? So that's where this element of the news came from, was that there could be these hidden clauses in players' contracts. And maybe that is why FSG are moving so tentatively with the contract negotiations with Mo Salah. I don't know how much truth is behind that, but
this is the thing I would ask you very quickly, is that if those clauses have been placed in there, are they allowed to be placed in there because the club doesn't ever think that Mo Salah will get something that big, or are they placed in there because Virgil van Dijk signed something only worth 200 grand or 220 grand, and then they go, don't worry, you've got a Mo Salah extension clause in your contract, you'll get more once we give him his more. So you can, I don't know which way you would think that you would look at that.
It swings in favor. It more swings in favor, and it's more heavily weighted to the player. Because if you're a Virgil van Dijk, and I don't think anybody in that dressing room, regardless, is gonna begrudge Mohamed Salah the money that he's asking for. He's a talisman. He scores the goals. He leads the team. He does everything. Yeah, he's the full package. Yeah, so you're not going to sit there and go, do you know what? I'm pissed off because Mo is getting more money. It's just not going to happen, right? But also, your agent is going to be sitting there going, listen, dude, you're 30. How many big contracts you got left? You want to be protecting yourself. What about your family? What about your retirement? You know, that media job that you're targeting when you're 35 might not come. That coaching role that you're targeting might not come. And this is what agents do. Agents sow the seed.
And they're getting 200 grand. They're getting 200 grand a week. And they're like, what are you going to do, man? When you stop? Like,
it's so tough out there. It's so hard.
This is what I'm saying. And the funny thing is, right, is that a lot of players now have looked to bring their affairs in-house. You've got players like Declan Rice doesn't have an agent anymore. He's represented by his father and his brother. Harry Kane, again, represented by his brother. Poorly represented, might I say, but he's represented by his brother. Kevin De Bruyne negotiated his last contract without an agent. You know, there are players that are switching off to the agency side of things simply because it creates blurred lines with the contract negotiations. But there's also a batch of players which are signing shorter term deals. So you're seeing a lot of 2-year contracts. Even when players are in their primes, they're signing 2-year contracts. You're seeing managers sign 18-month deals. Yeah, top class managers. You look at Thomas Tuchel, 18-month deal. Yeah. You look at who else signed an 18-month deal recently? There was Pochettino, 18-month deal. Yeah. But what it does do is it gives a break clause with the club saying, this isn't working out, so we need to part ways. And Antonio Conte, 18-month deal. We need to part ways without having to spend out a ton of money. And also from a player's perspective, a player can turn around and go, well, I've signed a 24-month deal, or with an option of a further. The club will put an option of a further year if they want to. They'll go, 24 months, but there's an option of a third year if we want to. And then the player can turn around and go, right, I'm killing it here. Which team is now the team on top? Who's the one that's dominating? I want to go and play with them. But guess what? I've only got 12 months left on my deal. So it's a lot easier for that club to buy me. And then the club that I'm currently at is in a weaker position to negotiate because I've only got 12 months left on my deal. And guess what? If they want to extend it by a year, cue Divock Origi, a number of games played, years extension for doing fuck all. But you know what I mean? But this is the complexity of contracts in today's market. Yeah. It's ridiculous. There's so many clauses. There's so many ways that players protect themselves, clubs protect themselves, that you don't know which way this is going to go.
It is as well. It's an organism, and like it's kind of like when you watch like Aliens, and it's like the aliens have like evolved. Like you think. You think that the players had figured it out with the release clause, and clubs have. It's very. I think there's a few leagues. I think maybe Germany, or there's a few leagues that still really love the idea of the release clause, and they buy into it. They're like, here, you can have your release clause. But a lot of these English clubs don't like to be pushed around. That especially when you've got these massive assets like Messi and Ronaldo and Neymar. The release clauses, because the money is so people can just borrow it and then spend it. We saw that with Neymar when Barcelona go. They're not going to pay 200 million. Now 200 million is the going rate.
Yeah.
Because of the phasing out of the release clause, we're seeing stuff like what James is talking about now. The idea of, we're going to do 18-month contracts, but they've evolved because clubs said no to the release clause. And now the players have evolved, and they've got all different types of ways, to get out of it. They'll sign a 12-month contract, or they'll sign a 2-year contract, or 1.5 years. And so I bet you the clubs are thinking now, I wish we just said yes to that release clause. That was easier.
Well, I agree with you, but you're talking, so there's a crossover here. And this is where football meets other sports. So let's take, for example, the NBA. LeBron James.
Yeah.
He controls everything. He controls absolutely. And when you are a global superstar, and this is where the image rights things come in, like Mohamed Salah is now a global superstar, he wants more control. he wants to turn around and say, and you don't get the same controls in football as you get in the NBA. LeBron decides who he plays with and who he doesn't play with. If you ain't good enough, you ain't playing on his team. Yeah, there's rumors of LeBron going out and scouting players and bringing players in and saying to like Carmelo, like, come on, like you need to be over here. Yeah, we're boys. I know what you're about. You know what I'm about. Let's do this. Yeah, Russell Westbrook, the same thing. Yeah, we're boys. You come over here. You play in my.
Salah's doing it with Trezeguet. He's like, come on,
but do you know what I mean? Mo Salah. There's rumors that Mo Salah said, no. If you want me to sign, you need to go out and be more competitive in the transfer market.
Maybe that's what Klopp was talking about. Yeah.
Q Diaz. Diaz turns up. Yeah, we weren't going to pull that trigger till the summer. All of a sudden, all this media talk comes out that Mo's saying we need to be more competitive. Yeah, boom, 50 million on the man's head. Let's do it. Yeah, do you see what I'm saying? Clubs will do things to get these things over the line. I mean, Harry Kane's an example. You know, he mentions this golden handshake that he had with Daniel Levy. And when you delve into this golden handshake, there's so many mechanisms that apparently are in this golden handshake, which were, we're going to go and sign X, Y, Z amount of players in the summer. If we don't do that, I will allow you to leave and go to the club of your choice.
Yeah.
Q 2 years of COVID. Spurs have to take out a loan. They ain't signed no one. Harry Kane's going, dude, I don't care about COVID. We shook. Like, we had a golden handshake. We shook on this. And then now he's sulking and down in the dubs. Do you see what I'm saying? So there are so many metrics now which players will use to alleviate contract pressure, to negotiate better contracts for themselves. You know, we've seen players that will, because the club can't afford to contract them to a certain amount, and players want money up front, they will essentially let their contract run out with a club, then re-sign with the club for a mega for a mega signing on fee to get around financial fair play, and then take a reduced contract amount. But they've just received most of their money up front. We thought that was Brady the case. Exactly. This is what I'm saying. Juventus have been doing it for ages, exploiting the loan market with signings, putting clauses into their contracts, and then say, well, we'll sign that player back at £25 million. When really the player's probably worth 30-40 million pounds. They're getting a kickback on the loan fee because they've paid a percentage of that. If the player doesn't play a certain amount of games which they can control, how many games they play, they don't have to pay a certain amount of money. It then reduces the transfer fee. It reduces the amount of money they've got to pay the wages. So clubs find ways to fight back. We can talk contracts all day, guys.
My goodness,
it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I'm just thinking, James, you remember years ago back in the UK, they used to have Dream Team on Sky?
Yeah.
I tell you what, if they had it nowadays, mate, it would be an absolute mindfuck. Holy shit.
100%. And do you know what? Another one that springs to mind, again, just solely rumours. There were rumours that in Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain's contract when he was at Arsenal, that they were, and this is the thing that comes out quite frequently with Arsenal, why you see certain players, all of a sudden they're smashing it. A player will be killing it, and then they'll disappear. Like they won't play games forever. Like they won't play games, and it's because what Arsene Wenger, well, the rumors is what Arsene Wenger used to do, is put performance-related clauses into their contracts in terms of number of games played, reduce the amount of money the player was being paid, but said, look, if you play 20 games in a season, and if you reach that 20th appearance by this date, you'll get this. Ox was killing it in that last year. He was killing it at Arsenal. And all of a sudden, he just disappeared off the face of the earth. Like, he was like, you ain't playing again, bro. The reason why you ain't playing is because you're going to hit that matrix. And we don't want to pay you that money. So guess what you're going to do? You're going to sit there until you pass that date, and then you can play again. So there was rumors of that existing in Ox's contract. There was others at Arsenal apparently had those kind of clauses in their contract. So
there was one that he did. I'm sure it was there was a player, it might have actually been Ox, who was getting subbed around the 65th minute, because if he played past 70 minutes, he would get a full appearance bonus of like 30-40 grand. So they would always sub him. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
But this is what I'm saying. The world of football contracts and an agency and stuff like that is crazy. And also, I'll say to anyone in the comments, anyone can be an agent. it's so easy to become a football agent. It's easy. It's easy. This is where you get these bozos just turning up that are football agents because it's easy. It's easy to do, and because it's so easy, it's quite unregulated in some of its practices. It's quite unregulated. So this is what.
The advantage of
Hmm.
agents, and I know because I deal with agents and managers the exact same way,
Yeah,
is
yeah,
that
yeah.
the best thing about agents and managers is they can go in and fight for you. And in all of
Yes.
this, what the best thing that Abbas, who is Salah's agent, could have done
Hmm.
is post all those emojis. And I reckon he's gone to Mo Salah and just gone, I'm taking the heat for you.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that's what a
yeah.
manager and an agent does for you, because now
I
everyone's
agree.
not talking about Mo Salah. They're going the agent, and it's
I
probably
agree.
worth the 10%. It's worth the
Well,
10% sometimes.
well, this is just it, and I think the important thing is there's nothing against agents. I mean, you look at how Cristiano Ronaldo talks about George Mendes. They're like brothers, yeah.
Yeah.
And also you listen to how certain players talk about Mino Raiola. Yeah, they're like he's done everything for me, because
Mm.
sometimes an agent, if you get the right agent, yeah, and you've got the right fit as an agent, they will have your best interests at heart. They will work tirelessly for you to get not only to earn a wage, but also because they almost become part of your family unit. And if you're a major superstar, you need the right kind of structure around you in order to feather your nest and make sure that you stay on the straight and narrow, make sure that you succeed. Because we've seen top talent just go off the rails, just literally go off the rails because they've been poorly advised. You know,
Mm.
we look at Jordan Ibe. Jordan Ibe being an example, he went off the rails because he was poorly advised. You know,
Mm.
I won't say how I know some of these things, but you went off the rails because he was poorly advised. You look at who's the lad, Ravel Morrison at Manchester United.
Yeah.
Everybody
Yes,
talks
my
about,
goodness.
oh, dude, everybody talks about that kid as being probably the most naturally gifted player they've ever seen, but he just was just poorly advised, went off the rails, didn't have the correct upbringing at home. No dad on the scene or whatever it may be. We hear these things. And an agent can sometimes step in and say to family, like, look, I've got him. Don't worry. We can push it forward. We can do this. We can do that. We can make sure that we protect him. We can make sure that he does well. There's stories coming out about who's the lad at Manchester United that's now in the mud because of this rape thing.
Oh yeah,
Mason
Greenwood.
Mason Greenwood, yeah.
Yeah, there's talk that his agent is playing a peripheral role in everything that's going on and just protecting him. And sometimes you need a little bit of that, someone that's going to try and say, do you know what? You need to just fall back. I'll take the heat. And like you said, maybe Remy Abbas has done that with that tweet. He doesn't mind playing the bad guy.
Absolutely. Well, regardless of whether Salah gets this contract or not, we want to hope that he does feature for us against Arsenal, man. James, we want to keep you here if you do want to have a chat about Arsenal, but we do understand if you do have to get going. But I will go to Jimmy first because we are preparing for Arsenal. There was a bit of a scare, but we were told by Nick he was reading out Klopp's transcript about what he thought was wrong with Mo Salah. It was what I suspected. I think he just kicked someone's boot, and it must have just hurt him a little bit. But there is a possibility that he may not be in amongst the squad. This was the squad that faced Brighton, by the way. Salah, Mane, Diaz. Everyone knows how it went. I just want to do a very, very quick preparation for Arsenal. I'm not sure if we do any shows pre-Arsenal. You guys will do a pre-Arsenal, won't you?
Yeah, we hope to. Again,
it's midweek. It might be hard.
Yeah, some of you guys that follow us over on the Red Sea Podcast, the UK side, will see that our shows have been a bit sporadic at the moment. Don't worry, guys. We're still here. We're still operating. Everything's going fine. I'm in the transition from current job to new job. SS is in a bit of a transition as well. Bless Courtney, she's not been very well, so it can be hard sometimes to get on and deliver you guys the top quality content, which we're looking to do. But don't worry, we'll be back very soon with all the juicy stuff that we do over at the Red Sea Podcast.
Absolutely. Well, we'll get a bit of an insight as to what we might be able to expect from any sort of preview, but we'll do it very quickly now. With keeping something like Brighton in mind, Jimmy, was there anything that going into Arsenal, because they're in form here? They're it's kind of strange. We don't expect to see, and if I'm going to put my neutral football glasses on, I'm happy for someone like Arteta because it's good to see in real time. Like when you're kids, you just see like, managers just pop up out of nowhere and you're kind of just like, how did that happen? But you've kind of seen this journey from, retiring at Arsenal, then going to be Pep Guardiola's number 2. It's a nice story and they've stuck with him, and it's good to see a manager get stuck with by a club. At the same time, I hope it just unravels for him and they lose 6-0 against Liverpool on Thursday, Wednesday, whenever it is.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I don't have a pair of those neutral glasses and I'm not going to ask to borrow them anytime soon. But the thing is, we go into the Brighton game, we're playing against a team there who's lost 4 on the bounce. Probably not the kind of team that you want to be playing, especially at Brighton side, who, when they are in form and when they do have a bit of resurgence, are a tough team, and they proved that the weekend. But like we said, come over with 3 points, absolutely fantastic. Now we're going to Arsenal and we're playing against a team that's got 5 wins on the bounce. You don't want to be playing a team that's got 5 wins on the bounce and are looking to be good in form as well. Granted, they probably haven't got the caliber of players that they need to be that successful side that we've known Arsenal to be many times in the past. But look, with the side that we've got, if we are playing a bit more of a stronger tempo in comparison to what we did at Brighton, I feel confident. Obviously, we went there last month or the month before in the Carabao Cup and got a 2-0 win. Diogo Jota getting the 2 goals. I think we can definitely deliver. I have no concerns about that. We'd like to see Mo Salah play. Obviously, if he's got an injury, then also probably not a bad thing that he sits out. If you look at who your backup options are, when you do have Luis Diaz, who is the man in form at the moment, when you've got Sadio Mane, who we know can do fantastic things, of course. Bobby Firmino coming back from injury as well, and we still can't underestimate how impactful he is as a number 9 for our side. He would be fantastic to have against Arsenal. So we'll see what comes up, but I'm hopeful for 3 points. I'm not going to give a score prediction. I'm not confident enough to do that just yet. I just want 3 points on the bus on the way home.
I think there's 2 major questions. It's funny. You end up getting to a point where you're like, there's 3 major questions. Who starts in front, who starts in the middle, and who starts in defense? And all of a sudden you're doing a predicted 11. It's like
every time.
3 tiny little questions. But you mentioned there things like Firmino and Jota, both of whom have scored historically against Arsenal. Sadio Mane has scored against Arsenal, so has Mo Salah. Luis Diaz has never faced them yet, but he looks like our most lethal striker, James. I mean, would you change much in the front 3? This is one of the biggest questions, I would say. Put all the others aside. Defense, we can probably find a defense that'll play for this game. The midfield is probably just the ones who either, it's probably going to be Thiago, Henderson, it looks like, because I think he got a bit of a rest. Fabinho, probably just has to go again. But front 3, it could be anything.
Yeah, we're in a good position, and what we've been lucky with now is to have competition for places. I think and I hope that Diaz isn't a replacement for anybody. I hope he is actually, in effect, an addition to what we've already got.
Yes.
Because we need to be fighting on all fronts. In order to do that, and I hate to mention it, you look at Manchester City, they can afford to drop arguably one of their most informed players in Raheem Sterling for 3 games, and they just kick on. They dropped Jack Grealish for 3 games. They just kick on. I feel like we're now in that position. So for me to sit here and try and predict a starting front 3, I don't think we need to even need to get into it. I just think ultimately we've got players up top now, and the only player I think you could exclude from that, and that's just through lack of match fitness, which would be Firmino. Out of the 4 others that are left available, and yes, Jota, and yes, the Origi and Minamino, but we know they've been more restricted to cup appearances, which is also fine. But out of the 4 major stars in Diaz, Jota, Mane, and Salah, any combination of those 4 can play, and we're going to get the job done because they are formidable in terms of finishing. The key thing with the Arsenal side of things, and we mentioned about Arsenal's current run of form, the last time we played Arsenal, if I'm not mistaken, they were coming into that game on an unbeaten run as well. I think it were like 3 or 4 unbeaten when they came into that game.
No, you're right.
Yeah,
they were full of confidence.
They were full of confidence. The Arsenal fans were jumping up and down, saying, "Yeah, we can beat them," and blah 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 blah. This comment here, all the combined 11s from the Arsenal fans are coming out, and they were sliding all these players into the combined 11s. I'm sure we're going to be seeing much of that again. Ultimately, I personally think that when we play against Arsenal, it's always a fanfare. It's always a great game for a neutral because there are goals, 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 goals. So all I can do is agree with Jimmy and say, I'm hoping that those goals are all Liverpool goals because we need to keep marching on and hanging on to Manchester City's coattails until we have that big bust up at the Etihad and we bust this Premier League title race wide open.
Absolutely. Well, I hope we do see goals. I want to see this one. I said this one. I want to see that one. This with a big thumbs up next to it. I want to see some 6-love. I want to see tennis scores. I want to see like a set, like a clean set. You know, those sets that take like 13 minutes. I want that one. Well, guys, it's been great to chat to you, and I love this late substitute appearance from Steven Gerrard himself. Pika Finis is going to get real jealous of me calling him Steven Gerrard. But hopefully we get to see some preview content from the Red Sea podcast, pre-Arsenal. But there's always going to be great content coming here from the lads, whether it's the UK or it's down under. We're going to be talking about, I'm sure, if it's Arsenal or even Nottingham Forest after that. But we're also in the quarterfinals of the Champions League coming up in the future, and also this amazing league run that we've got going on. Hopefully it continues against Arsenal, that fucking shite that they are, the arse, as we all call them. I've been George. We've been joined by Nick before. We have Jimmy Nicholson down the bottom, a.k.a. Andy Robbo. And we've also got Il Capitan Thiago's father, James, up top there. It's been great to see everybody. Hopefully Liverpool will keep up the pace, as this brand image is going to say in front of you. We did against Brighton, and hopefully we do it against Arsenal. See you guys soon. And this has been the Red Sea Down Under. See you later.